Alrighty, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's a beautiful, brisk day outside, and I appreciate you all for coming out here despite the sub-zero temperature. So please give yourselves a very warm round of applause. Maybe the only one you'll get all day today. I also want to thank the amazing staff of Yeshiva Beth Yehuda, Partners Detroit, and Prime 10 for making this beautiful lunch and learn every week. They put in the effort to get us our sheets and our notes and the amazing food. So let's give them a big round of applause. And then also I would like to say a big yasher koach, a deep-felt heartfelt thank you to Torah Anytime. Torah Anytime is an app and a website. You can find it at torahanytime.com. And they have thousands and thousands of hours of classes, of Torah classes by all kinds of speakers. I just found out today that my sister has a class on it, and I've got a brother who's got classes on it, and I'm on it, and they've got hundreds of different teachers, and it's incredible. If you ever want to learn about anything, you can go to Torah Anytime, any topic, any person, they got it all. So hopefully this will be up on there, and we say thank you to Torah Anytime. Okay, let's give them a round of applause.
Thank
you, Rabbi. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You don't have to thank me. It's my pleasure to be here, really. This is one of my classes I look forward to all week. So, thank you. Now, today we're going to be talking about probably about what it's like. It's like saying, who's your favorite child? All your children are your favorite child. But what we're going to be talking about right now is 8 verses in the Torah that are, it's almost like a favorite child. Because the way it works is, you love all your children, but you have that one maybe that you have a special... No, I'm kidding. You love them all equally, of course. My kids are going to watch the video and they'll be like, wait, who's your... Okay. Anyway. So these 8 verses are sort of the story of Avraham Avinu, the first of our patriarchs, and sort of the quintessential story of his greatness. Now, each one of the patriarchs is known for a different strength, a different quality that he gave to the Jewish people. Avraham is known as the Amud HaChesed, the pillar of kindness. And if you want to see all that kindness is, you look at this story, these 8 verses. We are only going to have today, unfortunately, about 50 minutes to discuss it, but there is so much here that even lessons within these 8 verses that I won't be able to get to. So we're going to start off, we're going to read these first 8 verses together. It's from Parshas Vayera, the beginning of Parshas Vayera, in Bereishis, Yud Ches, Aleph through Ches, Genesis 18, 1 through 8. And then we're going to take as many messages as we have time for today, and hopefully we'll get as much as we can out of this. Okay, here you go. Look at your source sheets if you'd like, or you can just listen if you'd like. God appeared to Avraham in the groves of Mamre, and he was sitting in the door of his tent in the heat of the day. Right? Last time we already spoke about why the Torah specifically mentioned Mamre. Remember what we talked about last time? Mamre gave him good advice. Okay? So Hashem appears to Avraham in the groves of Mamre, and Avraham is sitting at the door of the tent in the heat of the day. He lifted his eyes, and behold, 3 men were standing near him. He saw them and ran from the door of his tent to greet them, and he bowed down to the earth. He said, "My master, if I have found favor in your eyes, please do not bypass your servant." Right? He says to the people, let me serve you, please. Don't leave here. Let a bit of water be brought and wash your feet. Rest yourselves under the tree. I will get bread and you will sustain your hearts. Afterwards you will continue on your way, because it is for this reason that you have passed by your servant. They said, "Fine, do as you have said." Avram hurried to Sarah's tent and said, "Hurry, take 3 measures of the finest flour, knead it, and make cake rolls." Avram ran to the cattle and took a tender choice calf. He gave it to the lad and hurried to prepare it. He took butter, milk, and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them. He stood over them under the tree and they ate. Okay. There's so much here. So much here. Okay. For starters, God appears to Avram. Why did God appear to Avram? Rashi tells us, actually I think it's in your source sheet as well. God appeared to Avram to visit the sick. Here we go, source number 2. Hashem appeared to Avram, levaker esachola, to visit the sick. Says Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, he says it was the 3rd day after the circumcision, which is the most painful day, and Hashem came to see how he was doing. By the way, for the record, this, if I'm not mistaken, is the only time in the Torah where we see God coming purely for a social visit. Seriously. No, I'm saying like usually God comes to give a mitzvah, or to give a prophecy, or to give, this is just a social visit, meaning God purely comes to visit the sick. That's it. No other, it's not like, oh, while I'm here, I wanted to talk to you about this and this and this. Can we get a donation? I'm just coming to visit, but while we're here, we're doing our annual campaign right now. It's kind of funny because you always happen to come to visit around your annual campaign. So this is the only time. So normally Hashem comes, he comes to give a commandment, or he comes to give a prophecy, say something that's going to happen in the future. Here Hashem comes to visit the sick. Now, this, by the way, already teaches us something important. We just walked through Hanukkah. Hanukkah was when we talked about the Greeks, defeating the Greeks. Now, the Greeks, if you read about their gods, what are their gods' sort of feelings towards mankind? The answer is they couldn't give a hoot. They're busy running around, revenging and fighting and warring with each other. If they're Bacchus, they're getting drunk, right? Maybe once in a while, the only stories you have where like the Greek gods sort of interact with human beings is to steal wives. I'm serious about it. Yeah, like I would not allow. It's funny. I went to a prison last week to speak. And there's a large, unfortunately, a large Jewish contingency, and I went there to light the menorah with them and to talk. And this is a maximum security prison, and I actually went through some of just wanted to get a feel for like who I'm talking to, and unfortunately, it's like we're talking about. Believe it or not, it's incredibly uncommon, but there are Jewish murderers. There is such a thing, right? And unfortunately, there are other crimes of like. Crimes against children, etc., etc. So I was talking about the Greek gods, and I was like, I was about to say, like, I would never let my kids be around them, because the Greek gods are murderers, and they do horrible things, and I'm like, I would never let my kids around some of the people here either, so I had to change my language. But the reality is, if you look at Greek gods, and this is not, by the way, it's not confined to Greek mythology. If you look at Greek gods, if you look at most of the mythological characters, right? Most of the mythological characters couldn't care less about other people. They're running around, living their lives of decadence and immorality, basically. They're gods. And they couldn't care less about human beings. What do we know about God? When God writes us his Torah, Chilaso chesed v'sofo chesed. God starts off the Torah by making clothing to cover up Adam and Eve, who had just sinned against him in a major way. They just, so to speak, almost like kavayachal, they sort of like kicked God in the face. And what did Hashem say? Here, now you're feeling naked because you did the sin, this major sin. I asked you to do one thing, and you went against my wishes, but I'm going to still help you be comfortable. I'll make you clothing. And the Torah ends with chesed. The end of the 5 books of Moses, the end of the Chumash, is Hashem burying Moses, taking care of the burial of Moses himself. The entirety of our descriptions of God is caring for people. We are supposed to live our lives trying to become like God. God created the world to give benefit to others. We are created to be like God. Ergo, our greatest job in this world is to be of benefit to others. As Rav Chaim Volozhin used to say, a great rabbi used to say, Ha'adam lo nivra, a person is not born, ella lehoil la'achrini. You're born to give benefit to others. That's why you're here in this world. To give benefit to others. Hashem, we see right away in all of our stories, and it starts with this story, he's coming out of concern to visit the sick. Okay, just a major already differentiator between him and all the other gods of mythology. Thor and Odin, I mean, you can go through them all. Zeus, all those names. Go through, read the mythology. Don't spend too much time on it, it's utter rubbish, but I'm saying, like, if you read the mythology, that's what they're doing. They're just not concerned about humanity at all. They're just concerned about themselves. And their revenges, and their fightings, and their battles, and they're eating their children, killing their children, right? They're killing their children because they're afraid their children are going to overtake them, like crazy stuff. Okay, so for starters, we right now we're going to read about Avram's chesed, but Avram, of course, is doing his job of trying to be godlike, and the story really starts off with God's chesed. God's coming to visit the sick. Next, at the entrance of the tent. Very rarely in the Torah does it say where people were geographically located in their house. It doesn't say, and God came to Moses while he was sitting in the drawing room by a roaring fire. It doesn't say that. But here it says that God came to Abraham and he was sitting at the entrance of his tent. Why is that? Explains Rashi based on the Medrash. Abraham was looking for guests. Now let's understand what we're talking about here. We're talking about a 99-year-old man who is 3 days post-circumcision. Circumcision for an 8-day-old is traumatic enough. For a 99-year-old, it is painful, excruciatingly painful. There's no medicines back then like we have today. There's no narcotics and morphine and Dilaudid and all those pills. He's riding this one out himself. But where is he? 3 days after his circumcision, he's by the doorway to his tent, waiting for guests. Now God had made it incredibly hot that day. Kechom hayom. Why did God make it hot that day? Rashi again tells us because God wanted to spare Abraham from the burden of having to bring guests into the home. But then God sees that for Abraham, it's more painful to not be able to serve guests than to serve guests in his post-surgery situation. So God sends these 3 guests. Now, there are certain people who walk among us who are more in pain by not being able to do good for others than their own physical pain. I want to tell you a couple stories about Rav Shlomo Freifeld. Rav Shlomo Freifeld was the incredible giant of a man. He actually physically was a giant. He was like 6'5". For a rabbi, that's pretty high for a rabbi. He was like 6'5", and he was an incredible understanding of human interactions, human relationships. He's the rabbi who started my yeshiva, Shar Yashav. And I want to read to you a couple stories, or tell you a couple stories that happened to him. Towards the end of his life, he was very, very sick. And he had to get multiple surgeries where they kept scooping out parts of his back. I mean, he was incredible pain. So here's a couple stories that happened to him in those last years of his life. One time he had just gotten out of surgery, and he was clearly in great pain. And he used to always have a bacher who would be there with him, one of the yeshiva students. The yeshiva students around the clock would have somebody there with him. And the nurse came in, and the nurse had to give him a shot. So Rabbi Freifeld, who's laying back, and he had to always be in a very precise position because literally they had taken out parts of his back. It was incredible pain. He asked the yeshiva boy who was there, if you could please step outside for a moment. He steps outside, and he thought that it was over, the shot was over. So whatever, it's 3, 4, 5 minutes later, he walks back in, and he can't believe it. He sees his Rebbe is sitting up in the bed, right, which is just incredibly painful for him. He hasn't sat up in a couple days, or whatever it was, a couple hours since the surgery, whatever it was. His Rebbe is sitting up in the bed, and he's joking around with the nurse. So the nurse gives him the shot finally and walks out, and he says, Rebbe, I haven't seen you sitting up in a while. Are you okay? Is everything okay? He says, you don't understand. When these nurses come in here to give me a shot, they're terrified. They know that I'm this big rabbi. I always have visitors coming in. I'm an elderly man. It's hard for them to find a vein. And that means they're going to have to stick me multiple times, which they know is painful. So when they come in here, they're afraid. So I have to do what I can do to make them feel comfortable. To think about that. Here's a man in such enormous pain, and what's he worried about? The discomfort of the nurse who's coming in to give a shot to somebody who has not such easy to find veins. Unreal. Another story. He was once resting up after a surgery, and he had told the bacher who was with him, he said, do me a favor, stand outside the door. I need some sleep right now. I'm totally wiped out. I'm in pain. If you could sit outside the door and make sure no one comes in. Make sure no one comes in. Fine. So this bacher his Rebbe gave him marching orders. He's standing outside the door. Ain't nobody getting in. Another young yeshiva student walks up and says, I'd like to go see Rebbe. And he says, I'm sorry, Rebbe's not seeing anybody right now. The Bacha's like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. Rebbe loves when I tell him Dvar Torahs. I really want to see him now. And the Bacha says, I'm sorry, Rebbe's not seeing anybody right now. And this young Bacher was like insistent, this young yeshiva student, he's like, no, you don't understand. Rebbe really, really loves my Dvar Torahs. And then a voice comes from inside the hospital room. Send him in. So the Bacher goes in there, and he's there for like 45 minutes. And he comes out and he's gleaming. Gleaming! He looks to the Bacher who's sitting by the door, and he says, you don't understand. I'm so glad I came out today. I mamish gave Rebbe Chias. I gave Rebbe such life. I gave him such energy. I was Mechaya Rebbe. I gave Rebbe life. And you think about it, it's amazing. We know what really happened there. Right? It's very doubtful that whatever Dvar Torah, this young Bacher, told the rabbi he hadn't heard before multiple times. And it's undoubtful that the person who gave more strength to the other person, the rabbi, gave this kid such a sense of like, I can accomplish, I can make people feel good. It must have been excruciatingly painful for the rabbi. But he was more concerned with somebody else's feelings than with his own pain. Here's another story. And I know all these stories involve surgeries because he got a lot of surgeries. He was in surgery and he came out and like everyone's hovering over him, sort of waiting. And he starts coming to, and everyone's like, the doctor, the nurse, are you okay? Are you okay? The nurse says, can I get you anything, Rabbi? Can I get you anything? And he says, I'd like a corned beef on rye, please. And one final story. This doesn't necessarily show kindness, but to me, it's a story that is just so absolutely awe-inspiring. He's in the hospital. Again, it's Rav Shlomo Freifeld. And a lot of family members are gathered around in the room. And he was like drifting in and out of like consciousness or awake or whatever it was. Just drifting in and out, not really able to engage with everybody. I just want to make a big thank you to the good Lord above for this H2O. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvaro. Now, Rabbi Freifeld was married twice in his life. His first wife passed away actually pretty young. And he never had any children with his second wife. And they got married later. If I could tell you the stories of his courtship of his second wife, just the incredible sensitivity. His wife was I think she taught French literature, if I'm not mistaken. And like Rabbi Freifeld, who was this great rabbi, was taking out books on French literature so he could better be able to relate to his wife. Like he had nothing better to do with his time. But like he wanted to be able to have the right language and be able to understand what was inspiring to her. So he went out and read up all that he could on French literature. I mean, just an amazing human being. Amazing. So at one point, he's like drifting in and out, and suddenly he looks up and he sees that one of his grandchildren was sitting in the room. His name was Noyachol. And he says, Noyachol, your back is to the Rebbitzin. Quickly, please turn your chair around. Sensitivity. One of his grandchildren, a little kid, was sitting in the hospital room with his back to his wife. It's not proper respect. It's just incredible. Okay. So now, the question is, where does that leave us? Right? Where does that leave us? We're not Avram Avinu's. When we're 3 days post-surgery, we're not sitting on the edge of our door looking for guests that we can run after and pursue and bow down before and beg, please come into my house so that I can make you food and serve you hand and foot. We're not even like Rav Shlomo Freifeld, who's such a giant that in the depths of his pain was so sensitive to other people's feelings. So what are we supposed to learn from this? So the answer is, I'm not expecting any of us, I mean, maybe you, not me, I don't expect this of myself, to be like Avram or like Rav Shlomo Freifeld. But what about when I have a headache? What about when I have a sore throat? Sometimes when we are a little sick, we just become grumpy. And our discomfort gets passed on to everybody we meet. Because I have a sore throat, everyone's got to be grumped out the whole day. You know, people, How you doing? Oh man, my throat, it kills. What are you gaining? What are you gaining? You're just telling somebody bad, like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, okay, fine. Just why? What benefit do we get? Or we get snappy. We have a headache. We're in pain, right? It's true. But what happens? We get snappy. We snap at our kids, at our wives, at our friends, at our coworkers. That's sort of what we can learn from these greats is not to be exactly like them, but we can learn to get a fraction of their greatness. Now, how do you do that? Because the truth is, when you walk outside and you're not feeling well, you are grumpy. And the answer is that you've got to be incredibly proactive at this. You wake up in the morning and you've got a throbbing sore throat. Right now it's the winter. It happens a lot. Or you wake up in the morning, you got a migraine. It's time for you to verbalize. It's time for you to verbalize, to say out loud, my pain does not need to be anybody else's pain. I will endeavor today to make sure that I am just as smiley and happy and friendly to everybody as I would be on a normal day. You verbalize that, and throughout the day you might want to verbalize it again, once or twice again, because you can forget about it. But these are real, practical things that we can do to learn from this amazing story of Avram Avinu. I'm not going to be like him. I'm not going to be 3 days post-surgery running after guests. But when I'm in pain, I can be a little bit more sensitive. When you tell somebody, oh man, my throat's killing me, like what does it do for them? Like what is when you say to somebody, how are you doing? And that person says, hey, I'm thank God doing great, how are you? The other person, their response, we mirror. There's an idea of mirroring. Psychologists talk about this. Like we mirror other people's emotions. So when you're talking to me grumpy, I'll mirror that back. When you're talking to me cheerful, I'll be cheerful. I was in Shul the other day, and I saw this guy. I said, "Hey man, how's it going?" That was his response. I'm like, what? First of all, what kind of response is that? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Can I get that on tape? You're like, I'm like, what kind of person, like, do you understand that when you, first of all, for your own benefit, you answer people, how you doing today? Right? Then that's your life. You're creating your own life. Happiness is a choice. Happiness is a choice. It's got nothing to do with what's happening to you. I just came from a Shiva house. By the Klein's house for Rabbi Gilden, who for 20 years was battling Parkinson's. And I had the honor to meet him a few times in Shul. Never a complaint. Always smiling to people in Shul. Happy. He had a lot more to complain about. He had a lot more in his life than anybody. But yet he was always cheerful, always happy. Happiness is a choice. But it's also more than that. It's a responsibility. It's not just that happiness is a choice. Happiness is a responsibility. My face is a Reshus HaRabim. It's a public domain. Your face is a public domain. Just like if you own a storefront, you got to make sure that there's no ice, right? You always see the storefront people are out there early removing the ice. Why? Because of liability. They'll get sued. You got to make sure your storefront is clean and clear and nice. And if you're in a beautiful part of town, if you buy a storefront, if you rent a storefront in Birmingham or one of these nicer places, you got to make sure your storefront looks really nice, or the commission will kick you out. Your face is a Reshus HaRabim. It's public domain. Everyone sees it. When you walk around to everybody, you're just spreading misery. And there's absolutely no excuse for it. We have a responsibility. I don't care. You may be feeling, that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way. You're not allowed to spread it. I remember Rav Shmuel Brazil was a Rebbe of mine in Yeshiva in Shagashov. Rav Shmuel Brazil was an amazing, amazing individual. And he had an incredible wife. And like, I've been in their house together, you could see they were just this amazing super couple. Like just madly in love 20-something years after they got married, the same way they were on day one. It was incredible, incredible couple. And she unfortunately passed away very young. She passed away in the middle of the summer, and I remember I came back to I was in the Catskill Mountains. I drove back down for the funeral, to be with the Rebbe, my Rebbe, and I was there for the Shiva. And then yeshiva starts like 2 weeks later, after the summer break. You have to understand, like, my Rebbe was broken, like absolutely broken. Rabbi Shmuel Brazil wrote a little love note to his wife every day of his life that they were married, just to give you a picture of what kind of people we're talking about over here. Obviously, except for Shabbos and Yom Tov. Every day. So my Rebbe was absolutely broken, and everyone knew that. But he walked into yeshiva, and I'm telling you, it was unreal. He walked over to Shalom Aleichem, smiling to everybody. If you were a new student in yeshiva, and you didn't know the whole backstory, you would just think he was like this incredibly jolly person, which he was. 2 weeks after his wife passed away, and we knew he was hurting so badly inside. But his pain cannot be someone else's pain. Okay, next. Back into our verses. Okay, so Abram runs out to the three strangers, and he says to them, my master, he bows to the ground and says, my master, please do not bypass your servant. Now, if you notice, the word master is written in singular. So, the simple explanation, because there was three guests, right? There was three guests. So Rashi says the simple explanation is that he was talking to the leader of the three. You know, whenever people are walking, so it was clear this, of the three guests, one of them was clearly like the sort of the head of the posse. That was, you know, he was the HOP, right? The head of posse. So he said to him, hey, can you please, you don't want to speak to the underlings, that would be disrespectful to the head. So he was speaking to the sort of the most distinguished of the three. That's one opinion. Rashi brings a different opinion. Rashi brings an opinion also, a medrash that says that Avram was talking to God. Please, my master, do not bypass your servant. You are here visiting with me. Please don't leave. I got to take care of these guests, but please don't leave. Which is a whole nother level thing. Here, you're in the middle of talking to God. You're having a one-on-one conversation with God. Not only that, it's a social visit. God felt you were important enough to just come and say, how you feeling? And you're going to skip out on God for three strangers you've never met before? Seems bizarre. God, please wait. Please don't leave. If you can just wait right here. It's like almost like disrespectful. Not only do you leave God, you're in the middle of God came out of his way to visit you. And you're leaving God to go meet with a few strangers and then asking God, please wait around for me. Seems strange, right? No. Communicating with God is amazing. Absolutely amazing. We call it tefillah. We daven, we pray. What is greater than direct communication with God is being God-like. Being divine is greater than communicating with the divine. And when I go around and do chesed and kindness for other people, I am being divine. That's why, for example, we are allowed to be mevatel. We're allowed to not go to daven. Let's say, for example, you work in Hatzalah, right? Hatzalah just opened up here in Detroit. You guys know about that? Hatzalah is an amazing organization, volunteer organization. If God forbid something happens to somebody medically, sometimes the wait times until an ambulance gets here could be too long. And they will come here immediately. Their number is 248-800-8000. They primarily service this area where there's sometimes lagging emergency response times, and there's an area where they have enough people to respond. Dozens and dozens of volunteers did hundreds and hundreds of hours of training. And by the way, within like a week after they were open, they saved a woman's life. Literally within a week, there was a woman who had massive eternal bleeding would be really bad. She had massive internal bleeding, and she pulled over on the side of the road. She was totally discombobulated. She called. They sent a team out, and the ambulance system here, they had her like at a tier 4 or whatever it was. They were not going to get there for like another 20, 25 minutes. And Hatzalah got there. They assessed the situation. They said they got on the phone. They said, this is a tier 1. You need to get here immediately. And they did. They got there immediately. They rushed her to the hospital. She was having a massive internal hemorrhaging and bleeding. And had she gotten to the hospital 10 minutes later, she'd be dead. A young mother with a large family. So within a week, it's just amazing to me. This whole idea of Hatzalah, right? So they saved the life already. So if you're on Hatzalah and you're on a call, you don't daven, right? You skip davening. It's much more important what you're doing. Why? Because again, more important, it's great to communicate with the divine. It's amazing. But even better is to be divine. Now the best case is when you can do both. So I'll bake cookies for my friend who's not feeling well and drop them off and then go and pray. Or I'll pray and then go drop off the cookies. But if you could only do one or the other, you actually would do the being divine rather than communicating with the divine. So Avram says, God, I love talking to you. That's amazing. But I know that more than you want me to talk to you, you want me to be like you. So let me go be like you. Okay. He runs out and he tells the people, please don't bypass your servant. Another thing also, by the way, this is such an important message. He is running out to the guests and begging them to allow me to do something for you. Often we give. We give. We are an incredibly generous community. The Jewish community is just an incredibly generous community with our money, with our time. Incredible. But Avram teaches us something incredible, like so special to think about this and try to emulate this also. Instead of waiting for them to come to us, we go to them and beg them, allow me to help you with this. So let's talk about it on a charitable level. We all should be giving charity. We should hopefully be able to, if we can give a tithe, we should give 10%, we should give 10%. If we can give more, call it kavod. If we can only give less, we still have everyone, no matter what, has an obligation to give some charity. Right? If you don't have enough money to be able to support your family, you're not obligated to give the 10%, but you are obligated to give some form of charity. Instead of waiting for charity to come to you, go to them. Imagine how much easier you're making the lives of those people who are raising funds for great causes. Call them up. Hey, it's a new month. I've got some extra cash that I'm supposed to give away. What are your needs? Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to meet all your needs, but it's the mindset of saying, I want the chesed. Why should I have... If I want chesed in my life, if chesed is so important to me in my life, I should be running after it, not making it run after me. I was once at the Kotel, and it was the first day after the last day of Yom Tif for Chutz La'aretz people. So in Israel, there's one day of Yom Tif. In America, we have 2 days of Yom Tif. People who are foreigners who are in Israel stay the extra day, and we celebrate Yom Tif an extra day. Okay, so like let's say Yom Tif was over. I don't remember if it was Pesach or Sukkot. Yom Tif was over on Tuesday for the Israelis, and on Wednesday for the Americans. So Thursday, the first day after Yom Tif, there's a lot of Americans and Englishmen, all people from all over around the world at the Kotel, because a lot of them are going back now to their countries. They want to say goodbye. So at the Kotel, davening. And this group, these 2 young Hasidic boys come over to me, and they're asking me for achnasas kala, raising money for being able to marry off somebody. I don't know who it is. It might be one of the 2. It might be their brother, their sister. I have no idea. I give them a donation. And then they move on. 5 minutes later or so, I hear this man yelling at them. Yelling, and I look up and he's yelling at them. He's a man, he's an Englishman based on his accent. Or maybe an American posing as an Englishman based on his accent. That's also a possibility. Very well dressed, very well tailored. And he's yelling at these kids. Why are you bothering me in the middle of my prayers? Why don't you go get a job? What's wrong with you? And I couldn't believe it. First of all, you're embarrassing these people. And what are you saying? So I was like, I ran over there. Because these poor kids, they were like so embarrassed. So I ran over there. And I started giving it to him. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You're sitting here, you're davening. You're about to go back to England. And I don't know all that you prayed for, but I bet you were davening that God should give you financial success. And God says, let me see what you do with your money. And this is what you do? You yell and scream at people who are coming for money, and are you kicking yourself in the foot? You're praying for money, and you show God, here's how I'm going to act with your wealth. And on top of that, You're yelling at them for bothering you and coming to you? You should be running after them. Look at this. Avram Avinu runs after them. Imagine you work out at a gym. Americans, we love gyms, right? Every corner, Planet Fitness, LA Fitness, right? We love gyms. Now going to a gym, especially in the winter, it's not an awesome experience. Because how do you dress? So you're dressed wearing your shorts and your t-shirt under your coat, and then you're freezing cold getting into your car. And then you get to the gym and you work out, and now you're really hot and you're all schwitzed up. You don't want to shower in the gym because nasty showers. You want to go home and shower. But you're all schwitzed up. So you're going to put your coat on your schwitz, which is also not geschmack. Then you're really hot, so you leave it open, and then you come outside, it's freezing cold. The water starts freezing on your shirt. And then you get in your car, it's a combination of freezing cold seating and your schwitz, and you put on the warmer. It's just the whole thing. Totally not awesome. Going to the gym in the wintertime. But one day there's a door, a ring on your doorbell. You open the door, and there's that guy. Which guy? You know the trainer from the gym, Jim, Bob, whatever. Guy who's, exactly. You think he's paid in just like steroids and free gym time. So he's a really nice guy, but and he's like, hey, you won. I'm like, what did I win? He says, oh, you don't know? Every year we have a raffle. Whoever wins, we come to you for a year. So this year, whenever you want to work out, give us 2 hours notice, tell us what you want to work out, we'll send the trainer to your house with the equipment. You'd be like, oh, that's amazing. All right, let's do it right now, 2 hours, right now. Come back in 2 hours. I can work out in my own house and then go straight to my own shower. Oh, amazing, right? How thankful would I be? How thankful would I be? Now, how do you work out spiritually? The most important muscle, spiritual muscle for a human being is this muscle. The give muscle. The give muscle. That's the most important muscle. We were born, like we said before earlier, lo ha'adam lo nivra ela laho ela achrini. We were created to help others. So the most important muscle that you could have is give, 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 give. Now just like I know if I want to be healthy, and I know I have to work out my physical muscles, I'm willing to go to a gym despite all the hardships, because I know it's important for me to be fit and to be in shape and be healthy and work out. So I'm willing to endure all that pain to go to a gym. But if the gym's going to come to me, I'll be so appreciative. I should be running all around town looking, is there anybody here who needs something that I can give to? Because I know that I need to work out that muscle. This is the most important muscle for me. I need to learn how to be a giver. If I'm not a giver, I'm going to be a major failure at life. So I need to do this. I need to do a lot of this, as much as I can. And then they come to my door? They come to my house? They walk over to me. I was going to the Kotel anyway, and they met me here? Amazing. Thank you so much for coming over to me. That's the Avram model. The Avram model recognizes, I get so much more out of giving than I give. That's why I'm running after these people. I'm begging them, please allow me to give to you. Next. Let a bit of water be brought and wash your feet. Rest yourselves under the tree. This is actually, I don't have time. This was such a great lesson right here, but maybe we'll get to it later on. I'll get bread and sustain you. Okay? And then you can continue on your way. So what was the offer? What did he offer? A bit of water be brought and wash yourselves under the tree and rest, and bread. What does he do? He goes to his wife and he says, prepare 3 sa'ah of the finest flour and make cake rolls. Now 3 sa'ah is enough to feed like Russian army. You know what I'm saying? It's a massive amount. 3 sa'ah, right? We're talking about mountains of rugelach, okay? So he offered bread. He offered bread. So far, what do we know he's preparing? A mountain of rugelach. Then he goes to the cattle. According to one medrash, he actually slaughtered 3 separate cattle so that he could get the tongue, because the tongue was the choicest part. And those days, the choicest part of the cow was the tongue. Young calves, and they're not such big tongues. He wanted to give each person their own 24-ounce tongue steak. Okay, so think about this. And then he brings out butter. He says he brought butter, milk, and the calf that he prepared. Of course, the butter and the milk before the calf. right? Because the whole kosher thing, you're not allowed to eat the butter and the milk with the calf, but you're allowed to have bread and butter or whatever it is before, and then the calf. A lot of discussion about this, the kosher thing. And he serves them up a feast. An absolute feast. The real hallmark of chesed pros, of real professional chesed doers, is they say a little and they do a lot. In general, right? That's a rule in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Fathers, is emar ma'at v'aseh harbeh. Say a little, do a lot. That is such an incredible trait for the people who really, really do kindness. Yeah, don't worry about it. Come over. I'll help you out with this. And boom, before you know it, they're doing this for you and that for you. They're doing everything. Why do they do that? If I tell you, if I'm offering you this massive meal, if Avram came over to them and said, hey guys, let me make you a 4-course dinner right now, they'd be like, I feel bad. It's okay. You know, people don't want to take. People don't want to take, even if they need it sometimes. But and definitely if they don't need it. So these people, they see an old man. They didn't know that he was 3 days post-op, but if he would have said, let me make you a 4-course feast right now, they'd be like, no, it's okay, we're fine, don't worry about it. So you put out a very little offer, and then you get the yes, and then boom, you load it on. Right? And more ma'at v'aseh harbeh. Next. Another lesson. Let's see how many times we see the word hurrying or running. Okay. Verse 2, he lifted his eyes and saw, behold, 3 men were standing near him. He saw them and ran from the door of the tent to greet them. He said, my master, okay, afterwards you continue, okay, fine. They said, fine, do as you have said. So now we skip down to 6. So again, he ran in verse 2. Then in verse 6, Avram hurried to Sarah's tent and said, hurry, take 3 measures of the finest flour needed to make cake rolls. Avram ran to the cattle and took the tender choice calf. He gave it to the lad and hurried to prepare it. You notice, he doesn't let the ground get warm beneath his feet. When you have a mitzvah, when you have an opportunity to do a chesed, you don't let yourself get delayed. He literally is running everywhere. And there's a phrase that all the actions of a tzaddik, he does with alacrity. I saw today a question. Someone asked Rabbi Victor Miller. You know, the great rabbis, the people who sort of are very much focused on building the world to come, do they enjoy this world less? And he said a fascinating answer. He said, absolutely not. Because they are so focused on the fleetingness of this world that they have to get as much as they can out of it while it's here. You enjoy something much more when you're a tourist than when you're a local. When you're a local, I lived in New York for 11 years. I never went to the Statue of Liberty, right? You're a local, who cares, whatever. You don't realize. People come from out of town. They're on those double-decker buses looking up and this and that. It's amazing. But you live there, you don't care, you just walk, you know? So, if you are the tzaddikim, are the people who see, I'm a tourist here in this world. I got to get as much as I can out of it. Every minute is valuable. I'm in Disneyland. I'm only going to be here for 4 days. Got to chop it all in. Even the little, lightsabers that they charge $24 for at night. It's like, hey, I got to get it all. I'm only here for 4 days. This is going to be amazing. We're going to be amazing. We got to get it all. Let's go to this ride and this ride and this ride. But if you live in Florida, you live in Orlando, and you have, year tickets. So maybe you'll go in one day, you'll go to this ride, and leave. You don't care. You're not going to pick up all the rides. So who enjoys Disneyland more? The person who's there for 4 days, or the person who lives there and feels like I can get it anytime? So Avram, he's a tourist in this world. He's got to get it all in. He's hurrying. He's running. Mitzvah. Boom, 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 boom. Quick. Next. Who does he involve? Now Avram is a very wealthy man. At this point in the story, Avram is a very, very wealthy man. I'm sure he had a whole household full of servants. Who does he involve in this special mitzvah? His wife and his son, Yishmael. The lad is his son Yishmael. Now he didn't need to involve them, and by the way, he didn't need to do it himself either. He could have easily said, guys, all right, you're coming here. Ring. Jeeves, please go, have whatever, the baker in the house was. Have the baker prepare some bread and have the butcher prepare some meat. But no. I want to involve Sarah in this. I want to involve Yishmael in this. Because he realizes that the greatest investment you can make in your family is making them into givers. How? By literally, physically involving them in acts of kindness. When I was a kid, people would come knocking at our door sometimes, maybe collecting money from Israel or whatever it was. The way where our house was set up, the kitchen was pretty close to the front door. And the bedrooms were like in the back. But my dad or my mom would call me from the back to ask to get a cup of oranges for the visitors. Why? It would be easy for them to just go in the kitchen, get a cup. They wanted to involve me in the act of kindness. We could give lots of charity. We got to make sure our kids are also physically giving charity. It's not about the money, it's about practicing that muscle. I may have said this before, but it's worth mentioning again. It's a practice we have in my house that I learned from my parents. In our house, at the dinner table every night, we have a tzedakah ambassador, whichever one of the little kids says we want to give tzedakah first, and they hand out the tzedakah box with 3 coins, nickels usually. So we have 5, 6 kids giving 3 nickels each. What's the total damage to me? Like $1.20, including myself and my wife? Nothing, right? I could have someone come into the door and write out a check for $18 maybe. And who cares? The answer is this is a muscle. And the greatest investment that we can make in our kids is to give them the addiction to kindness. Not addiction, but the desire, the want to be kind, to do goodness. The ROI is incredible. I told a story recently at Partners, but it bears repeating because it's such an incredible story. I have a good friend of mine in Muncie whose father, his name is Nachum Deutsch, his father about 35 years ago, was sitting at home one day on a Wednesday night, and he gets a call from his friend. Hey Nachum, what are you doing tomorrow night? I don't know, watching the game, having a beer. So you want to come with me? Where are we going? Surprise. Like, okay, I'll come with you. The next night, Thursday night, 7:30, his friend comes and picks him up. Drives him to a local school, and they walk into the gym, and on the gym are hundreds of boxes of food lined up. There's something called Tomchei Shabbos of Rockland County, an amazing organization that gives out hundreds and thousands of boxes of food to people all around that area, the Rockland County area, that need it. And he says, hey, listen, I've got a route. Every Thursday I do a route. So come with me. Let's do it together. All right? So that night he walks around. You take the box out of the car. You walk into someone's door. You knock on the door and you walk away. You get back in your car and you go to the next. And Nachum Deutsch really enjoys this. He says, I want to get my own route. They say, fine, great. That's great. They sign him up. For 35 years now, he has almost not missed a single Thursday night. Even if he's not feeling well, even if he's out of town, he's out of town. But if he's in town, and he's pretty much there every Thursday night. Now, I don't know the exact number of how many boxes are in his route. Let's imagine he does 20 boxes, okay? The amount of boxes that he's delivered by now, 20 times, let's call it 40 weeks, or 20 times 40, we'll call it 40 weeks a year, so we've got 800 times 35 years. Someone's really good at math, I don't know. I'm not, my calculator is. Hey Siri, no, okay. It's a lot, the number is a lot. It's like 12,000 maybe, something like that, maybe even more. More? 28,000. 28,000 boxes! Now, by the way, that's first of all, it's made such a difference in Nachum Deutsch's life. Like, every Thursday, he's engaged physically in doing acts of kindness, and he loves it. It's one of his favorite times of the week. Every one of his kids know. They know that Daddy on Thursday night dedicates his time to go bring food to people who need it. His kids growing up have a different view of Daddy. But think about this. Think about the guy who hooked Nachum Deutsch onto giving out boxes. I don't know if he even lives in Muncie still. He could be moved away a long time ago. But 28,000 boxes or more have been delivered because one time he involved somebody else in his kindness. Think about the ROI, the return on investment. Incredible. Sometimes the greatest chesed that you can do is involving somebody else in chesed too, because then they do it and they feel really good about it and they keep doing it and it just spreads the world. Spreads the light all over the world. So Avram is going to do this act of chesed, but he wants to engage his family members, engage his wife, engage his child. There's so much more. I just got to say, we got to stop. Unfortunately, it's 1 o'clock or a little bit later. So we got to stop. But these 8 verses right here. There's like, I'm thinking right now of at least 3 or 4 that I've left out already. But there's so much more. Unfortunately, we're not going to cover it probably next week either. So next week we're not here. That's right. That's exactly why we're not here. Thank you very much. But feel free to go look at some of the commentaries on these verses. This is the story of our people's kindness. This is the paragon of kindness, Avram, doing his quintessential act of kindness. May we all learn and gather a little smidgen of Avram's kindness and bring it into our lives. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful week.